Today we're going to be working on a ukulele I picked up at the thrift store. It was a good deal. It was $5. It's a Cordoba 25CK, and as you can see, the bridge had broken off and they just had a good deal on it. So I thought, well, this is going to be a pretty simple job just to go ahead and glue that back on and put it back together. The only other piece that was missing was the saddle piece, and so I was able to get one of these from China for, I think that was like $5 or something, and it came with a new nut too if I needed that. So I don't think I'll need that. That looks pretty good. But otherwise, the ukulele is in pretty good shape, and I thought that might be fun to keep it or sell it or let the grandkids play with it or something. But we'll go ahead and get started on this. Okay, so one of the first things we want to do is put it on some sort of padded surface, and I have an old scrap piece of carpet. Whenever I'm working on guitars or anything that needs to be taken care of, I'll put it on there. So I think what I'll do is, when I first started going on this, you'll notice I still have the strings attached, and the reason I did that is because they do that fancy way of wrapping the strings, and I was thinking that looked awfully nice. I can duplicate that, but I thought, well, if I can pull this off and not have to redo that wrapping job. I've done it on a few classical guitars through the years, and yes, I can do it, but I don't really feel like doing it if I don't have to. So I'm hoping the ends will go back into the tuners pretty readily, and I don't think there's a lot of stress on these instruments anyway, so I'm not too concerned about the strings. If they're that bad, well, I'll just buy another set of strings and put them on. So what I thought I'd do, and I've been playing around with this a little bit, is since it broke off from the body here, you can kind of gently move this around, and it'll actually kind of go back to where it broke off, because the glue and everything is just imperfect enough where it leaves an indent in either the lacquer or whatever this finish is on top, and you can actually key it back in eventually. It just takes a gentle touch, and once you get it in there, you can see it's fairly stable and fairly locked in place, you know, if I'm pushing down on it. What I was going to do then is just use some painter's tape on this. I'm not too concerned about the outcome, other than I thought it would be a fun thing to play with, but I would like to not mar the finish as much as possible. So what I thought I'd do is I'm going to mark this off where the bridge goes, and then I'm going to either sand or scrape off the finish or the old glue. So what I'm going to try to do is get this locked in place, and actually a helper would be good, but I think I can finagle this to sit up right against the bridge there. And same thing on the other end. Okay, that is where the bridge was before, and now we've got it taped off. All right, and there you go. So I had the tape barely touching the sides of the bridge, just because I'd rather take a little too less off than too much off when I do this. And I probably should have done this before I even thought about doing this, was just to put a piece of painter's tape on here, and probably be wiser to do it on the back. But it seems like it peels off pretty easy. I guess it peels off real easy. Yeah, that's just barely, that's about the strength of a Post-it note. Okay, well, that should be good then. So it's not going to put any kind of adhesive. It certainly is not sticking very well. So I might put some more tape on there to keep it in place, just in case it decides to scoot around on me. I don't think it will, but I really don't want to do any refinishing if I can help it. Since I only got $5 in it, well, I guess I have $10 into this thing, because I did buy that replacement bridge. But still, I guess they sell these for around $100. I don't know what you could get for them used. I was thinking of putting it on eBay, but I might not do that. Okay, good. That looks great. So now it's a matter of trying to figure out how I want to get that cleaned up. The back here, I think we're just going to sand lightly. Oh, you can even see. I'll try to hold this up here, but you can see the glue kind of the way, just the pattern, the way it actually it was on there or not on there. So actually the glue job wasn't very good in the first place. So that's kind of indicative that the failures, they didn't even have that full surface glue on that full surface. Huh. Okay, well, that's just what it is. So we'll sand all that down. Okay, I think what we'll try first is the easy part. And what I'm going to do is I've got some 120 grit sandpaper here on a clipboard, so I've got a good solid surface back here, and I just want to get some of that glue off that I showed you before, and so I'm just going to carefully take it back and forth and see how it does. Okay, so when you're doing something like this, you can tell the glue builds up over here. So now I want to be careful. I don't want to take off too much material on this side. Actually, I don't want to take any off this side because that's pretty much bare wood. And just that little bit already kind of knocked off some of that glue. So I guess that glue is just barely on there. Yeah, so that's interesting. Even though I'm trying to be careful, I'm getting more material off down here. I guess it's just a painted or a very thin layer of stain on this thing. But I'm starting to see some much lighter, I guess that's walnut maybe? Well, I'm not sure what that bridge is. Okay, there's just a little dinky winky little piece of glue on there. Okay, I think I'm going to call that done. That looks pretty good. There's a little teeny bit of little glue there, and I bet that seems like that's kind of, it must be like a little divot in there. And that's why that glue, I can't get down in there because it's just slightly, yeah, I can feel the indent, just slightly indented down there. So the glue is actually still inside underneath the top surface of the wood. So it looks pretty good. So we're just gonna, okay, I'm just gonna, so this is a relatively flat surface, and I'm just trying to feel if I have any rocking going on there. Feels like maybe, part of me wants to say maybe this bottom isn't totally flat. And that's why it wasn't glued properly, because this wasn't flat. Let me give that a little bit more sanding on that. Yeah, there's a slight bow on this bridge here, right in there. And that's why it didn't glue right. It glued over here, as you noticed, and there was like no glue over here because this part wasn't totally flat. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get this little rise down just a little bit more. It's pretty close. All right, I think that looks like we've got it. Yeah. Okay, so I think that was the problem with this all along. I think when they did this at the factory, this piece wasn't totally flat, and that's why it didn't glue properly onto the body of the ukulele. Okay. Okay, we're back to our ukulele here. And so, even as we look at the surface here, this is where the glue was on this side of the bridge. As you remember, it was on this top side here. And so it was glued only on this side over here. And you can see the original finish where there's absolutely no glue whatsoever. There's no glue residue right through here. So they just glued that right to the finish. I'm going to try to take that down just to the wood a little bit. And I don't have to be 100% down to the wood along here. There'll be plenty of, like I said, there's not a lot of pressure or a lot of tension on the strings, these nylon strings on an instrument like this. It's not like a 12-string guitar that has some serious pull to it. So we're going to scrape off this glue, and I want to get it down to the bare wood if I can, and it looks like it's a pretty thin finish. So we're going to try a couple things. And I thought what I might do is use this chisel, just kind of gently see if this will do anything. So it looks like I can kind of scrape some of that surface. You want to do this like really carefully. I just want to work on finish, not on wood. See, I can feel it when I hit those little bumps of glue. So this actually might be enough here to... Okay, that looks pretty good. You can see definitely finished wood, not finished wood. So we've actually got almost, actually that second go around really cleaned that up. So that looks like a good place to glue the bridge. Now we're going to have some issues with this as far as clamping is concerned. Ooh, actually that fits right in there. Okay. So my tape worked great. That just, the edges of the tape are tall enough just to hold that in where it needs to be. So very good. I was a little worried that after all that sanding, it might make those edges disappear, but that feels pretty like it needs to be right there. Very good. Okay, so now the next step is going to be to glue this. Now, one thing about clamping was when I first got this ukulele, I thought I could just use my guitar clamps. I didn't think about it other than I have guitar clamps for clamping bridges, but it's too big to fit in this, to make them to move down this corner between the hole and the rest of the body, and to get everything configured properly. So I think we're going to glue this, and I think we're just going to set some weights on top of it, and I believe that should be sufficient pressure. So now we want to use a glue, and I use old school Elmer's glue, wood glue. I find this works great for gluing necks and things. I've had some discussions with people on various forums and stuff, and they're pretty convinced that this is not the way to go. So I will just say I'm using this particular glue. I've had really good luck with it. It's lasted, haven't had any failures in years. I'll say 5+ years that I've been messing around with. Actually, it's been longer than that I've been messing around with fixing guitars, necks, and bridges and things, and I have had 0 issues from anybody with failures on the glue. So I will just keep it at that. So if you have a better product to use, by all means use it. But if you're just doing this as a one-off type project, this will work just fine. Now, if you're doing a very expensive guitar that's worth, several $1,000s, then I wouldn't recommend you do it yourself anyway, and go to a luthier and let them use the products they feel is best for that particular guitar, especially if it's vintage or something. That would be a special case. Then this, I couldn't address that if that would be appropriate or not. So we're going to use this wood glue. Okay, I'm going to use a little wood brush, artist brush, to help spread the glue around. So I think we'll just start with a little bit here. All right, so we want to get enough glue on there on each surface to coat everything. Ideally, we'll have just a minuscule amount come up from the edges, because we're going to have to clean all that off. All right, let's see what we end up with here. Okay, I'm going to pull that off and check to see what the coverage looks like. Oop. I don't think I can. That's pretty, wow, that's not, okay. So that's, that just went right in there and doesn't want to let up. So, wow, that's a good sign. So that means we got in just a little bit of extra glue coming out. So I'm going to leave well enough alone. Wow, that looks really good. Okay. Good. Wow. Okay. That usually doesn't happen that good. So that was just a minuscule amount of glue coming out. And I'm going to use my, I don't know if you can see this. All right. Just a little bit of glue coming out here. Well, that's not much at all. It's just a, wow, this has worked out really nice. Okay. I always strive to get just a little bit of glue out, and the fact that that's holding so tight tells me I got really good contact between the two pieces, and that, I mean, that's just, I can almost string it up and start playing it. Maybe not. Okay, that's, I think we did good there. All right, just a little bit more glue's coming out. So if I was super concerned about that glue, I'd probably spend a few more minutes trying to clean some of that out. But boy, I don't want to mess with the fit. It just really, it seems like it glued itself to the top of the guitar when I put that bridge on there. Okay, well, we're going to let this sit a few days, and let that just do its job, and we'll just, hopefully nobody will disturb it like a cat or something. Oh, that's a good point. Ta-da. All right, very good. All right, we'll see you in a few days. So we're back. It's been 2 days now since we first put this weight on the ukulele bridge to see if it is secure on there, and actually it looks pretty darn good. So I got a little bit of glue sticking out right here in the front. All right, so that seems to work pretty good. So let's pull the tape off. And this actually worked too. No cats were yelled at during the curing of this glue. Thought I left a mark there, just some dust from the sanding. Okay, I think we okay, just a little bit of careful. I think that looks pretty good. Let's stick with that. Okay, so from this perspective, it looks like we're in pretty good shape. So what I do want to do, we're going to just show you what we've got here so far. I'm just going to string it up. I'm not going to do a final setup. Not that these take a lot of setup work, but okay, I had a chance to tune this thing up a little. A couple things struck me. One is I'm not that used to ukuleles, and I didn't realize the tuning for this G string was so high, so that's kind of a learning on my part. I got an online tuner just to see what it sounds like. It's reasonably in tune right now. The strings, it struck me that the strings have no telling how long they haven't been strung up on this thing, so the strings, it probably need to be restretched, I guess, in this case, and the neck and all that probably needs to settle in a little bit. So, but the main point is that the bridge is holding up just fine, so that looks good. So I think this, there's plenty of other sites talk about ukulele setup and that sort of thing, and I think this needs a little bit of work, because I think I've got some fret buzz up here that needs to be looked at. This bridge might be a tad low, so I can either shim it up or just get another cheap bridge from overseas and just pop that in there and see if that helps any or not. But I'll let it sit a few more days, keep it in tune, and I'll just play with it a little while and see how it feels. If it's something I enjoy, I'll just keep it around for fun and maybe recording something. But otherwise, I just might sell this guy once I feel comfortable that everything is in shape and that it's set up properly and everything. So if you have something, an instrument, could be a guitar. This happened to be a ukulele, and it's a nylon string instrument, which is much less tension on the bridge, although these guys are pretty tight, I gotta say. But if this was steel string, obviously there's going to be a lot more stress on this bridge. But the square inchage, whatever the size, the footprint of this bridge is much smaller than a guitar as well. So if something like that happens to you and the bridge pops off, it's really not that big of a deal. You saw it didn't take me all that long to get that marked off and cleaned off where the glue was and reseat the bridge in there with glue. This should be fine. The bridge, the saddle itself is something that might need to be adjusted, and I think in this case needs to be shimmed up. And it's got a little play back and forth. Right now it's pushed all the way, which you'd expect, all the way against the front. But it could be, once I really do some final intonation checks and things, I might want to push it back. I mean, it's not going to move much, maybe half a millimeter, so I don't know that would affect intonation too much. But anyway, so if you have something like this, same situation, then it's really an easy fix to get these things up and running again. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you liked it, thumbs up. If you really liked it, please subscribe. And if you have any questions or suggestions or comments, please feel free to leave those down in the description section. Okay, thank you very much. We'll see you next time.